We are on the TalkKubernetes show on the sidelines of DockerCon. I am with Idit from Solo.io, and I'm talking to Solo.io for the first time. This is going to be an interesting conversation. I'm going to learn along with all of you. They have some really interesting products in the cloud native space. I think we'll dig into it. Can you introduce yourself and talk about the company?
Yeah, definitely. So I founded the company on September, not this September, the September before. So it's like a year and a half or so. Mm-hmm. And basically, the purpose of this company, from the aim, the kind of like the mission critical that we try to actually solve, is the problem that we are a very open source minded people. We are all about innovation. So we have a lot of products and open source project before that was kind of like taking the market to the next level. Mm-hmm. But what we felt is that, people are coming, enterprise company are coming to KubeCon and coming to all those great conference, and the whole day here is about the innovation and what is really, really great there, right? So like whatever, serverless. We're talking about serverless, they're already talking about hybrid serverless. Which is kind of like ridiculous. People didn't even adopt serverless. Yes, they're already pushing it to the next one. Mm-hmm. So, but when I saw this, I said, look, in the end of the day, what I really care of, and I care that people will use my product, right? That's what I really, really want, and I want to help them. And our mission was to basically, what if we can just help them to migrate from where they are right now, which mostly is legacy application, yes, all the way to microservices and even serverless if they want. And kind of like help them to actually be able to consume all this crazy, innovative stuff that's being talked on the keynote of that kind of conference. So this is kind of like what our mission is, right? To help them come. And then after we bring them all the way to a point that they actually manage to have everything, very innovative, what we want is also to push the market, right? So we're basically then going to play a little bit in the service mesh ecosystem to try to bring them even all the way to there. So this is kind of like the mission of Solo.
So you want to serve as the glue for their IT transformation, like from monolithic to microservices and beyond, maybe functions as a service,
yes,
or whatever
exactly.
it is. And also solve their day two problems. So you want to sort of ensure
exactly.
They are, okay. What are the products you have, and can you talk a little bit about your products? We'll go from there.
Sure, so the first product, again, so our first mission is to bring them to the innovation part. So the first product is called Glue, and we have an enterprise edition called Gluey. And what it's basically doing, it's giving, like when I looked first on this problem, I said to myself, okay, that's interesting. So I have these three different workflow, and I wanted to help them migrate. And what I know is that when you're trying to migrate, usually the best way to do is to find what is the common compute, right, that share between all those three. So I say, well, so function, right, is this unit, right? Because if you think about it, serverless is functions, right? So it's an API call that actually calling piece of code. But if you think about it, microservices is not that different, right? Yeah. I mean, in the end of the day, it's some API call that call a function in these microservices. Yes. And if you think about it, it's exactly the same thing when you think about monolithic, right? It's the same thing. So I can actually treat this expose API as function as well. And if I'm taking all this infrastructure that I have and cutting them to function, now I can actually build a new application from them that compose from microservice, serverless, and monolithic together, right? A new application. I call it hybrid application. Okay. And now when we have that, we can actually, first of all, we're already going to the right direction. So if you want to add new functionality, I want you to do it in microservice or serverless because that's the right direction. Mm-hmm. But then when you have time, you basically can start stripping up your monolithic application if you want, you don't have to, and kind of like move it as well. And all of this is being done without writing code, right? Which I think is really cool. Yeah. And also, so it's all configurable. And you don't need to redeploy the monolithic application, which is usually kind of pain.
So the thing is, even by getting our hands dirty, going from a monolithic piece of that mess to a microservices kind of environment, it's tough. Like you have to handle the stage, then you have to do a lot of. You have to literally factor out so many things to get there.
Right.
So how does the platform do? What is the secret sauce? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the platform is built. It's basically it's built on top of Envoy, which is an API. It's basically a proxy from Lyft. Mm-hmm. If you think about it, the reason it was actually introduced on the first time, now it's very popular in the service mesh context. Mm-hmm. But actually, when it started, it was it was built in first in Twitter and then in Lyft, because that's the way they migrated, right? So this is actually a really, really good proxy for that use case. So we basically decided to focus on that. And what we did is we took this proxy, we built an amazing application, basically a platform on top of it, that the purpose is all about migration. So for instance, everything should be running on the function level because that's the smallest unit of compute. We're discovering infrastructure. We managed to, we're giving you a lot of enterprise feature on top of it. And basically what we did is we abstract the network. So now if you want to actually take a piece of, whatever function from the monolithic application, just migrate it to serverless, let's say, just write the serverless, and then basically come to Glue to discover it, and then you can tell him, don't go there, go on that. Okay. And then you have still the monolithic application. You don't need to reroute it. You don't need to redeploy it at all, right? It's already done, it's working. The only thing is that if you will click this button, it will go to here. When you're clicking on the page that you want to go, whatever, for Lambda or for server, microservices, it will go for there. So that way, we basically helping you with configuration, and we have a very beautiful UI. We actually migrate those.
So can you imagine your platform to be sitting on top of the proxies and doing some routing and management on top of that?
Yes, okay. And we do more than this. So we also created on top of it a GraphQL. Okay. And what is that? Because what I just described you, it's only routing, right? But I'm not doing any relations. There's no relationship between the backend services that I'm routing to, right? I can't take a service from here and a service for this and create any relationship between them. So what we thought about, we said, wait, but GraphQL is kind of doing it. So what if we can actually build on top of it a GraphQL that build on top of Glue? And then basically we're leveraging all the great functionality of Glue, but we can actually now basically create a flow of a new API in your infrastructure without writing any code that can actually go to one microservices, let's say, bringing the results, going to a Lambda, bringing the result, going to a microservice, to a monolith, bringing the result, and represent this as a new API. And all of this, no writing code whatsoever. It's all configuration. So that's called, so we open source it. It's called Scoop, but in our enterprise features and product is actually, it's a tab, right? Basically now you can route to a function, to a microservices, to a host, to a monolithic, and also to a GraphQL that we're helping you build.
Can I sort of think of it as even extending beyond Istio? Because I was talking to somebody this morning. We were talking like, Istio solves one problem, as an abstraction creates more problems.
Yes.
So can I see Glue as something that sort of fixes all the mess within quotes around microservices endpoints and all the routing you need to do to handle resilient system? So do you solve that problem, and if yes, how do you go from there to the higher order functions like management, governance, monitoring, and all that? Right?
Okay. So we build on top of Envoy, right? And Envoy is very, very distributed, and we are kind of managing it. So we basically abstract the network. So exactly what you say, it's just going to clean up of the mess that you need, because Glue is also an ingress for Kubernetes, right? It is, right? So basically, it's exactly fitting up on your microservices. And it will be able to just managing like a real ingress or API gateway, right? With the security, with the credential. We have also feature enterprise, like for instance, we basically synchronize automatically with the Git of your choice, so like GitOps or GitHub or Bitbucket and so on. And what's happening is that when you're changing something in the UI, we're basically translating it to configuration file, checking it into you, and then you're getting all the audit, because before it's approved, before it's approved, it's not going to actually infect anything. And then once it's approved, it's doing it. But that way you can roll back. You have all the audit of everything that's happening. You can go to any version you want. So it's really, really solid. So there is a lot of enterprise features. So that's, first of all, if you're only using even microservices, that's the one to choose. It's by far the best API that exists there. And I'm saying it endows, right? It's building on Envoy. It's just really, really good. So that's that. Then, besides that, now, as you said, okay, let's say that you're doing it, you need to operate. And that's actually interesting. So when we saw this problem, we said, one second, if we're talking about operation, Service Mesh, which is a great technology right now, is doing quite a lot of buzz. So that's interesting. Let's look at this. And then we said, wait, we are in that layer of the API server. So basically, every request that's coming to the cluster is done by us. But then there is also, this cluster itself, and there we kind of not reading. That's what Service Mesh can help. Now, Service Mesh, there's no point for us to do it because there's so much offers, right? So what we said, right. So what we said, instead of actually playing in that ecosystem, which I don't think we should, what if we can actually glue those together? So what we did is this. we said, well, there is a lot, but a lot of service mesh. What if we will take a layer and basically put it on top of it, basically an abstraction layer for all the meshes? That will help us because we will want to build the stuff on top of the service mesh, and we don't want to rewrite it for 10 different platforms.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you think about it, the vision that I have is that, you know the Mesos vision that was before, that they had a lot of computer, and what they did, they created kind of like a layer to make look all of them as one big computer, and then you can plug in some, you know. So that's the same idea, but for meshes. So they're going to be mesh in, you know, in cloud. AWS just announced one, right? Mm-hmm. That's free, right? And this is free. So people who's running on AWS, they should use that. That makes a lot of sense, right? But then STO will offer you something else, right? Google will offer you STO. And if you're running on-prem, maybe you want console because you're already using HashiCorp. So now the question is, how do you do that? And this is exactly the idea. The idea is that you shouldn't. Mm-hmm. All of them are different. It's very complicated. What you should do is just use superglue. This is how we're calling this layer. Mm-hmm. And what superglue is doing is basically, it's a very that simple API. And it's really, really that simple. And it's so easy. Mm-hmm. You can basically come and say, superglue, I want to install STO on this service dot namespace. Or superglue, I want to install Console Connect on this namespace. And basically, it's managing that for you. And it's treating it like one big mesh. And then every functionality of the service mesh is just that simple as toggle. You can may say, I want observability, I don't want observability. I want retry, I don't want retry. Really, really simple. So now we have this layer, which I think is very popular, very interesting. Now I can actually plug into this. So the first one that we plug in, of course, was Glue, right? Because we need an ingress to take care of it. So that's the first thing that it's plugged in. The second thing that we're going to do, we're going to build a lot of other platforms that are going to be related to resilience, going to relate into monitor, going to relate into testing. We call this suite, we will call it Dr. Glue, right? So that's that. And besides that, you can do also plug in something like Knative, for instance, it will work. So this is where we're actually going to move to the next level. Okay. So we're helping customers to glue their environment. So now you have all of this glue. That's fine, so now they're getting there. And now they really want service mesh, so we're basically gluing the ingress to the service mesh with this layer, and then we're gluing other stuff to make it sure that it's really, really good.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is, if it makes sense, this is our
definitely. And it sort of solves some of the operational headaches with all the microservices, different kind of units of applications in inside your organization.
There's another thing. I mean, when I'm talking today to customer about service mesh, I discover that most of them are in exploring mode, right? They don't know what to choose. Yeah. There's so many. How do you know what to choose? And if you think about it, it's not that different than was before that with cluster management, where there was Kubernetes, Mesos, Docker Swarm. What are you choosing? So I think that by coming with superglue, it's giving, and make it very easy, it's giving them an ability to basically investigate it. Try that, and make a decision. But you don't need to learn 4 to 5 different tools. Absolutely. Just learn a superglue. So that, I think, will be very, very powerful.
Yeah. And also, like, different teams or divisions might be using different services.
Exactly, so on the same organization.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's a central idea, easy way to handle everything.
So we're calling it multi-mesh. This is like the vision where we think we should go. Right? That's called multi-mesh.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Yeah. So can you talk about your customers? Do you have enterprise customers, and what is your business model and stuff like that?
So we just started, right? I mean, really, really brand new. We actually launched yesterday, so it's really, really new for us. We are already enterprise product. We have an enterprise product. There is people who's just trying it because we really, really just started.
Yeah,
right? We released it yesterday, right?
Yeah, you launched in KubeCon. So
exactly. Yeah. So we did. We have some customer on the open source that are already using it in production. Okay. And to be fair, they're all using for different reasons. Like, for instance, for the open source, I have a customer that's using on AWS, and what he have is microservices, and he wants serverless, so he needed to glue that together, so that's helped him. You actually see we're actually invoking Lambda with Glue. It's 350 milliseconds faster than actually with the API gateway of AWS, and cheaper. So it's like the whole world. Okay. There is a lot, so we have a lot of customer playing with that. We have a customer that's interested in the GraphQL for that we have. So we have a company that has actually already GraphQL, but they have a lot of little one, and they want to kind of like facilitate that. And they think that Glue can do that for them. So we have that. We have companies that that using technologies like Nomad from HashiCorp, and also Console, and they really wanted to manage the microservices. And they feel that Glue, because Glue is really, really extensible, it can basically work with any platform that you want. It doesn't have to be Kubernetes. So they're really, really excited about that. It's built on top of Envoy, which make it already like, the best, because the community of Envoy, and we by the way, different than anybody else that is working with Envoy. There's like who offer that kind of stuff, or some of our stuff. We actually contributing to Envoy. So we actually, in the top 10 commuter to actually, it's us, Google, and the other, right? So Lyft and so on. It's really, really important to us to be, if we need something for a use case, we're just going and contributing upstream. So you will see a lot of stuff happening. For instance, we contribute the caching filter, nuts filter. We created Squash filter, which is one of our products for debugging microservices. So we have a lot of stuff that we're basically contributing to Envoy, and we will continue to do that. So it's kind of like we are full around, for real all stack player, so we'll be able to go very
awesome. I really see the value, because I have been advocating, when on Twitter people get into serverless versus Kubernetes, all those conversations. I tell them it's a continuum of services. You're going to have legacy applications, you're going to have microservices, functions, and all those in between. So I think your platform sort of glues all this world and makes it easy from an operations point of view, and further governance and all those things.
Because most company does not have only greenfield application. They actually has legacy and and like mainframe and and we should help them as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe not to move, but they just glue.
Just sort of give a glue to connect all of them.
Exactly.
This is interesting, and if anyone is interested in your product, what are the coordinates? Where can they find about your the information about the product, and where can they find you in the social media and all those places?
Sure. So I mean, as I said, we just launched. We have a Slack channel that it's open source and very, very active. So a lot of people can come there and ask questions and try our product. We have our website, so you can actually request a demo and actually start. And we have a lot of customers doing that as we speak. And that's it basically.
Awesome. Thanks, Idit, for joining us, and it was great talking to you. And thanks for your time.
Thanks so much for having me.